Hello, everybody. This is Micah History, and welcome to the United States versus the United Kingdom, Part 3. And today I will be talking about some more famines, uh, more British famines in India. So, the Great Famine of 1876 to 1878 was a famine in India that began in 1876 and affected Madras, Mysore, Hyderabad, and Bombay for a period of 2 years. In the second year, famine also spread north to some regions of the central provinces and the northwestern provinces, and to a small area in Punjab. The famine ultimately affected 58.5 million people. Around 5.5 million people died. In part, the Great Famine may have been caused by drought resulting in crop failure in the Deccan Plateau. The famine happened at a time when India was trying to reduce welfare. Earlier, in the Bihar famine of 1873 to 1874, the British had actually stopped the famine for once by actually giving the starving people food. Wow, good job, Britain. However, the Lieutenant Governor of Bengal, Sir Richard Temple, was criticized for helping the people too much. Wanting to not be criticized again in 1876, Temple made sure that a lot less relief would be given. Two kinds of relief were offered, one for able-bodied people and one for small children and the elderly. However, this led to strikes in Bombay. Furthermore, in January 1877, Temple reduced wages in the relief camps in Madras and Bombay. The reason was that it would make people dependent on the government and would give them no reason to work since they would get paid by the government. In the autumn and winter of 1878, malaria killed many more who were already weakened by malnutrition. In early 1877, Temple said that he had put the famine under control, even though one-fourth of the people died. 2 years before the famine, heavy rain destroyed crops in Kolar and Bangalore. Little rainfall the following year caused the lakes to dry up, affecting the price of food. To deal with the famine, Mysore started relief kitchens. A large number of people came into Bangalore when relief was available. These people had to work on the Bangalore-Mysore railway line in exchange for food. The Mysore government imported large quantities of grain from the neighboring British Madras. Now, the Great Bengal Famine of 1770 was a famine between 1769 and 1773 that affected the lower Gangetic plain of India from Bihar to Bengal. The famine caused the deaths of around 10 million people. The start of the famine started because of a failed monsoon in 1769. I wonder where I heard that before. That caused widespread drought. I never heard of that before either. And two failed harvests. Sounds familiar. The poor infrastructure, again, sounds familiar. Investments, devastation from war, and exploitative taxes crippled the economy. The decade previous to the famine was noted for the looting raids conducted by Maratha soldiers. They stole whatever they could and destroyed what they couldn't. The looting were mainly in those areas which were later most hard hit by the famine. Smaller harvest happened in 1768, but was followed in late 1769 by much worse conditions. By September 1769, after the failure of the annual monsoon, there was a severe drought. This was, however, ignored by the British. Again, sounds familiar. By early 1770, there was starvation, and by mid-1770, many people were dying of starvation. Also in 1770, smallpox broke out in Murshidabad, killing 63,000 people, one of them being Najabat Ali Khan, the Nawab of Bengal. He died on March 10, 1770. He was succeeded by his brother, Ashraf Ali Khan, who also died from smallpox 2 weeks after his coronation. Later in 1770, good rainfall resulted in a good harvest, and the famine ended. However, other droughts happened in the following years, causing even more deaths. In total, 10 million people, or one-third of the population of Bengal, died. Because of the famine, large areas were depopulated and became jungles for decades to come, as the survivors left in search of food. Many cultivated lands were abandoned. From 1772 onwards, bands of bandits and thugs became an established feature of Bengal and were only brought under control by the 1890s. Just like, in the 1890s. Just like almost every famine in India, the British caused it. As the famine became worse in April 1770, the British increased taxes by 10%, because of course, increase taxes when your people are starving. They also destroyed food in Bengal to make opium poppy cultivation. I wonder what that was for, and banned people from storing food. This destroyed any extra food that could have been used during the famine, and this was the first out of the many British famines in India. The Chalisa famine, 1783 to 1784, happened after unusual El Nino events that began in 1780 and caused droughts throughout the region. The famine affected many parts of North India, especially the Delhi territories, then all different countries. It was right after another famine, only 1 year before, between 1782 and 1783, the United Kingdom and Mysore, and 11 million people died during the famine. However, the worst atrocity the British ever caused was the Doji Bara famine of 1791 to 1792, which happened because of another major El Nino event lasting from 1789 to 1795 and produced long droughts. The El Nino event caused the failure of the South Asian monsoon, again, for 4 years in a row, starting in 1789. The resulting famine caused death in Hyderabad, the Maratha Empire, Deccan, Gujarat, and Marwar, and a total of 11 million people died during the famine because of starvation or disease.